Hello everybody. In my last video, I went over some objections to the Leibnizian cosmological argument. And in this video, I'll be going over some secondary arguments as to why the cause of the universe must be personal. It must be a mind of some sort. But before I get into it, I just want to make a little request. If you enjoyed this video, would you just mind hitting the like button? That would mean a lot to me. And if you really like the video, you can subscribe to keep up with my newest videos. So with that said, let's get into it. As we've seen in my previous videos, cosmological arguments try to show that there's some cause or explanation as to why the universe exists. But none of these arguments by themselves prove what this cause must be like. That requires additional arguments. Some properties of the cause are obvious. If it created space and time, then obviously it did not have itself any kind of spatial or temporal reality. But hang on, people will say. There's a world of difference between some spaceless and timeless thing and a god. And that's absolutely true. But I've dealt with that in another one of my videos. I believe the first objections to the Kalam video, I dealt with that claim. But in this video, I'll be going over 2 or 3, depending on how you look at it, arguments for the personhood of the cause of the universe. The first argument is often put forward, albeit in different ways, by the apologetics popularizer Frank Turek and the Christian philosopher William Lane Craig. Turek puts the argument like this: impersonal material things can interact with each other and bring about new material things, but it's impossible for you to get a material thing from absolutely no material unless there's some mind, some consciousness, which chooses to bring that material into existence. The Kalam argument implies that the cause of the universe is immaterial, so it follows that it must be a mind. Now, I don't necessarily completely disagree with this argument, I just don't like the way Turek puts it forward. He says, and I quote, "In order to make a choice, which is what you have to do to go from a state of nothingness to a state of creation, you have to be a person." Now, at face value, this just seems like a blind assertion. It's just kind of taken as a given that a choice has to be made for new material to come into existence. Also, the language of going from a state of nothingness to a state of creation is definitely apt to make some people wary of the argument right off the bat. Using the word creation like this is often seen like you're trying to use a loaded term in this argument. It almost seems like you're trying to smuggle in some kind of creator. Now again, I'm not necessarily saying that the argument is unsound, I just don't like the way Turek puts it forward. William Lane Craig approaches this argument by trying to list all the possible candidates that could be a cause of the universe. So what could possibly be the cause of the universe? What things exist that are spaceless, timeless, immaterial, and capable of creating the universe? The obvious difficulty in talking about this is that we are familiar with material, temporal, space-filled things. That said, we are familiar with one type of non-physical thing: minds. Every day we experience ourselves as minds. We experience that we're not identical to our body. Rather, we have a body. We are in possession of a body. But the centers of consciousness that are me and you aren't physical. They're not made up of atoms or quarks. So what else could possibly be the cause of the universe? Other than a mind, you're really hard-pressed to come up with another candidate. Dr. Craig mentions one possible candidate that you could come up with: abstract objects, like a number or a set or a property, something like that. But abstract objects can obviously be ruled out right away. Part of what it means to be an abstract object is that they can't do anything. They're not causally powerful. What can a number or a property cause? it even feels wrong just to ask the question. Other than the two candidates of a mind and an abstract object, there doesn't really seem to be any possibility for a cause of the universe. And since abstract objects are ruled out, the only thing that's left is a mind. Now I can already hear an objection being made. Okay, so you can only think of a mind and an abstract object, but that only shows the limitations of your thinking. It could just be that the topic is so far out there and abstract that we can't really comprehend of such a cause of the universe. And fair enough, I guess. It's possible maybe there's a third thing that we just don't know of that could be a cause to the universe, but I'm hesitant to go down this road because you can say I don't know about anything. Everything is possible in the unknown, you know? Even if we go with that line of reasoning, we can still ask, what is the most plausible type of cause of the universe? And this argument would show that the most plausible type of cause is a mind. Unless you can show that there's some third viable option, or that it's impossible for a mind to have created the universe, you're still left with the conclusion that the most plausible cause to the universe is a mind. The second or third argument, depending on how you see it, is also put forward by William Lane Craig, and it has a very interesting appeal to it. He points out that the cause of the universe is something outside of time. It's timeless. It never began to exist. The universe, on the other hand, began to exist a finite time ago. So if the cause is in some sense eternal, then why is the effect not also eternal in the same way? Why is it that even though all the conditions required to produce the universe existed eternally, and yet the universe began to exist a finite time ago? Dr. Craig uses the following scenario to illustrate his point. The freezing point of water is 0 degrees Celsius. So if it was 0 degrees Celsius for an eternity, then any water around would eternally be frozen. If the cause is eternal, the effect is eternal. So what is it about our case that allows an eternal and unchanging cause to produce a non-eternal and constantly changing effect? It makes no sense to propose some kind of immaterial object or force as the cause of the universe, whatever such an immaterial thing could even be, because certainly such an immaterial cause would require its effect to also be eternal and unchanging. This is just like the situation with the frozen water. The only thing that could suffice as a cause to the universe is a personal being who chooses to create the universe sometime in the finite past. The concept of someone existing eternally yet producing a temporal effect isn't strange at all. We can easily imagine someone who's been sitting down for eternity and at some point decides to stand up. In that case, the standing up just happened a few seconds ago. It's a temporal effect, even though he was sitting down previously for an eternity. So, the cause of the universe must be personal. So, what do I think of this argument? Well, again, I think it's a decent argument. I just don't like the way it's put forward, and here's why. The reason it's weird for an eternal cause to give rise to a non-eternal effect is because the effect exists for less time than the cause, even though all the sufficient conditions for the effect were present for eternity. I agree that only a personal being could give rise to such an effect in that situation, but according to the Kalam argument, such a cause to the universe is not in that same situation. The cause of the universe existed timelessly, that is, without time. It did not exist for an infinite amount of time in the past, like the person who was sitting down for eternity and chose to stand up. In fact, even if we didn't know the cause of the universe had to be timeless, the Kalam still shows that it couldn't have existed infinitely in the past. That's the whole point of the Kalam, is to show that nothing can exist infinitely long in the past. Now, obviously, Dr. Craig is aware of this, and that's why he says that the cause is, in some sense, eternal. It's eternal in the sense that it never began to exist. But it's not like the universe has existed for less time than its cause. By the nature of the case, the universe and its cause are exactly the same age. Time began with the universe. So the first moment of the universe is the first moment when the cause of the universe could possibly enter into time. The cause is not chronologically prior to its effect, but it is logically prior or explanatorily prior to its effect, in the same way that the chain, which is holding a chandelier from the ceiling, is explanatorily prior to the chandelier hanging in air. It's not like the chandelier hanging in air is somehow causing the chain to be connected to the ceiling. Rather, it's the chain that's connected to the ceiling that is keeping the chandelier suspended in air. The cause and effect are simultaneous. They're both happening at the same time. It's just that, explanatorily speaking, one is the cause and the other is the effect. So I think we should just ditch the analogies of the frozen water and the person standing up. But there is still an argument to be made here, and it doesn't have anything to do with the effect existing for a shorter amount of time than the cause. Rather, it's this. If the cause is timeless and unchanging, why would the effect not also be timeless and unchanging? Surely, if this was an impersonal cause, then the effect would also be timeless and unchanging. Reality would simply be made up of the cause and the effect coexisting in a single state, sort of like a photograph, except there's no matter, so I mean, you can't see it, but in the sense that it's just one single state, it's just like a photograph. I don't know exactly how much stock I put in this argument, but I certainly believe it's at least a plausible line of reasoning. So, that is it for this video. I hope to have given a fair overview of these 2 or 3 arguments for the personhood of the cause of the universe. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, then without a doubt, be sure to share it with your friends and subscribe to keep up with my newest videos. If you feel I made a mistake in my reasoning, or you just have something to say about the argument, or you have some topic that you want me to cover in the future, then be sure to leave it in the comments. In my next video, I'll be responding to a video by the fairly famous YouTuber Cosmic Skeptic on the Kalam cosmological argument. Yes, that's right, I'm going back to the Kalam argument. So, I hope to see you then.